Yo, hey Instagram Live. This is Matt from Two Thangs. Let me get ourselves together a little bit. I'm about to go live here with Nick Skrobisz from a bunch of bands, a guy I've known for a long time, and really talented individual. He is a really amazing guitarist, coming to his own as a drummer, producer, and then his solo projects all kind of, I don't know, apocalyptic soundscapes, real cool kind of proggy, what's that, German, somebody, he knows better than I do. But he does a lot of cool stuff, and he's a really creative dude, so thought it'd be interesting to talk to a musician about how they create, what they do, that sort of stuff. It's been really fun having these conversations with people, just kind of seeing the way we all connect when we make things, and the way that we differ from each other as well. Hey, I'm going to say, Lifey, how's it going? And hey, Becca, how's it going? If you guys have any questions at any point, I'm going to try and keep my eye on the chat, and I will get to them as we're kind of chatting. I know with doing these before, a lot of times people just kind of pop in, pop out, and, you know, then people watch at their leisure later. Oh, good. He is, Nick is with us, so he'll probably, there we go. He's in. Easy peasy. Let's see if that works.
Hey there,
Phil.
What's going on?
How's it going, man?
Pretty good. What's shaking?
Not much.
What's that wall behind you? Are those your prints?
Oh. This is this is a giant piece of shit I made.
Oh, like the turd emoji?
Yeah. It's made out of all my paintings. So there's about 200 regular prints of all the paintings, or small prints, postcard size.
Do you have that wide angle lens on your side of your phone? You should put the other side of your jam.
I know, right? Oh, there, I can get it mostly in.
Yeah, get your fisheye going. Get your Glennie Friedman.
Are you down in the cave, your recording studio?
Yeah, I'm down in the area of pain, as they say. You know, we're Multicult practices, and I do recording and stuff.
Are you still doing it? Are you guys practicing, gearing up?
No, we're just sketching out demos and stuff, because you know, it's not really a rock and roll planet right.
I know. The like Comic-Con scene is so fucking amped to get back that they're starting to plan these things for the summer, and everybody's like, this is a terrible idea. I don't think there's anything more unsafe right now than jamming 100,000 people with terrible hygiene into like a small space and mouth breathing on each other.
It's like Cheeto dust like floating around in the air.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the test to see if COVID attaches itself to chips.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the last concerts I saw before this all hit was Multicult and Chief Tail at the at Philly.
That was at that place, Ortlieb's.
Yeah.
Like red, those like red velvet curtains.
I think I actually read they closed down, which I was pretty bummed. I think they did not survive the pandemic, it was a cool club.
Yeah, it's like perfect. It's like, you know, I had like a little jazzy vibe, and it sounded good, and it was not in like the hot part of Philly. It was in like Northern Liberties, and I know like South Philly is like the jam for most. But we've always played so many weird venues in Philly. I think we played at Junkyard once.
I mean, well, Northern Liberties Fishtown is still like You know, it's got Johnny Brenda's. It's like where the older, it's the used to be hot, still kind of gentrified, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Wayward played at I think it was like one of the first Johnny Brenda shows. It was at with Dysrhythmia, yeah, and Fight Amp.
That sounds right.
I'm
trying to think. I feel like on any of the tours I was on, I don't think there were. No, oh yeah, there was a
I don't know if
show.
you were at that show. I don't know if you were at that show because that was like I don't think that was a tour show. It was like a one-off thingy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it was weird. The stage was all high. It was like one of those like 6-foot high stages, and like people standing like this.
Yeah, that always works so well for like bands that don't have like 300 people.
Yeah, I know. There's like 20 people there, and they're like, "Here's an olive plate." It's like, cool, thank you. I'm sure you guys, whatever like Russian oligarch you guys like are front for, this is all like, this is all the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Was a great. I mean, what?
What's going on up in Providence?
Well, man, it's a weird time to be in a new city, you know, because you're like eating takeout, which is always like half as good as the food is in the restaurant, and you can't really go to live music bars, anything art openings, like nothing sociable. You know, you can kind of go in stores when no one else is there.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot more like small stores in Prov, right?
Yeah,
if I remember.
The city is like so insanely corrupt that it somehow worked this really amazing advantage to keep all like big businesses out of there. Because like if you ever see that episode of Sopranos where like the like two mobsters go into a Starbucks and they're trying to shake it down and like it doesn't work because like you know, it's a Starbucks. He's like, I mean, I can run it up the chain.
It's like, I
think Providence. Yeah.
I have to check this out. I am the manager.
So Providence, I think, just like figured that out. So they just kept out all big businesses, or were just so poor and shitty that nobody just businesses wanted to come in. And so it's got this kind of amazing. You go to like even the outside weird towns instead of just being like Chipotle, Olive Garden. It's like weird fucking restaurants and bars and businesses that you're like, well, what is that? How does that even exist?
Yeah.
I'm loving it, and I'm really excited once we're in a real thing to like crack the city open.
Yeah, because it looks like back to what you were talking about, Ortlieb shutting down. Like it looks like a lot of places are just going to be shut down, and then everybody's going to have to start from scratch. But it's always like kind of the same people, kind of like they're like, I found this new spot, but it's like the same people running it, you know, the same people that are willing to like go through all the headache, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
I mean, every town needs like an Adam Noble bass or like just a dude who just loves music and is willing to put up with throwing shows where he pays bands out of his own pocket. And, you know, like when you have one of those, the scene flourishes because bands come through.
You get it going, and then it's like, okay, now there's like a pattern, and then, you know, it's like the Grand Canyon is like dug by like, you know, millions of years of, you know, water or whatever, you know, the same concept at a, you know, an infinitesimally smaller scale, but still like, like people are like, oh, like everything's going to be gone. And I don't think that's really the case, but it is a huge interruptus, you know.
I mean, it's all going to change. It's going to be a bummer too, because a lot of the weirder art and music ventures like grow in the like the shitty spaces. The place that's been there for like 80 years and was mismanaged, and now they just let some kid come in and book whatever weird shows he wants, you know? Like, that's where a lot of like you can kind of experiment with, especially like music's different than art, that you really need that. I think if you're interested in live performance, you need that kind of like place to go to where you can just fucking do something weird. Do you remember, I don't know if you were with, I think maybe Jesse was roading with us, but you weren't.
It was with Kieran. We played at Trumbleplex in Detroit.
Trumbleplex. No, but I've heard that name before.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
so
like a legendary place.
This is like what you're talking about. This place had been there like for already like 20 or 30 years, and there was like grizzled old like hobo man like fixing up an old school bus, like who had lived there, and he's like the weird like granddad that runs the place. But it's in like a pretty rundown neighborhood, but it's this enormous building, and they had just been having touring bands through there for decades, you know, like decades, like shit, like I think like Cro-Mags, just weird, like,
wow,
like, you know, like Motorhead might have played there on an off day. It's just like a weird place. There's another place like that in North Carolina called the Milestone. You might have been with us.
Oh, I think I went to the Milestone.
Place.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I do remember that place. I mean, but that was the crazy thing, like Rhinoceropolis or
Denver.
They all got destroyed with the fucking ghost ship, man. Like every mayor in the whole United States was just like, I'm gonna shut down any DIY going on in my city. They're all like, let's do it. Let's just shut it all down. Yeah, I mean, Seattle had a few that went out with that. Portland had a bunch. But, I mean, it was everywhere. It was the sushi place in Richmond. That place went down.
Oh, Nara Sushi.
Yeah.
They're all so ephemeral. They're all just so, like, oh, they're, you know. I mean, I say that, but, you know, some of them were around for decades. So, like, Rhinoceropolis was around for more than a decade, maybe almost 2 decades. And it was like, yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. You know,
yeah.
That place was crazy because I remember they just had like an endless supply of Noam Chomsky videos just running like on loop, like a looping VHS player, like Noam Chomsky and just like stacks of like nutritional yeast and like kind of not quite clear water that you could like cook beans with and stuff. That place was a hoot, man.
Yeah.
They had some fancy fine artists there, though.
Yeah. Well, they had all those weird, like, bunk bed loft styles in those giant rooms and stuff. It was a crazy setup. And, I mean, it seemed like, from what I've heard, Denver really kind of blossomed their DIY scene into a whole bunch of graffiti artists, a whole bunch of stuff that transformed their downtown and kind of got that going. And, so, like, I'm sure that really was, like, a keystone to that whole movement there that built that city. Why it's like now it's super expensive and
and it's like a weed ice cream shop, like for like miles, and also like tons of homeless people too. So you know it's a mixed bag, you know, as far as like culturally what Denver has achieved, depending on where you are in town. But it's I noticed the touristy parts is like more like weed and ice cream and homeless people, and then you have like the regular downtown. It's a beautiful town, though. I love it up there.
With the big mountains in the city, you're like, okay,
That place, Rhinoceropolis, though, like there's a dog food factory right next to it. And I remember, like, you know, you'd be like, oh, I've been sitting in the van forever, so let's go for a walk or something. And you can walk for an hour. It just smells like dog food everywhere. Like the worst.
I do remember that.
Yeah. You didn't smell it inside the place, though.
No. Yeah. That was like punk BO. And stale beer on the floor. Yeah, that was it would be funny to like your memories like so that's like 15 years ago now probably. Which fucking makes you feel old. But like
well,
I remember all these specific small details from these places, and then you have a whole separate set of memories of you're remembering the Noam Chomsky videos. I'm remembering like the crazy loft system they had built. It would be funny. Yeah. They don't exist anymore, so you couldn't like see what the actual thing was.
That part of town was so industrial. Like when you walked outside, it looked like just Orwellian, like for miles too. You're like, you didn't know like when does real town start? Like I don't understand the geography of Denver well enough to know where it was in relation to the whole downtown, but like I saw that like a whole bunch of times before I ever saw like Denver proper.
Yeah, I know that you could get a really skewed view of the city.
It's a little distorted, yeah.
I have one of Brandy's cousins lives in Denver, and I was telling him there's a bar out there called Tui's that bought some of my art. Tui's.
Tui's, okay.
Yeah. The people that work there seem really cool. They bought some of my art and put it up, and they asked me, like, do you mind if we put some of this up? And we're like, oh, I'm like, hell no. And they even put a card up with it. And so I like started following them, and then they are in this part of town that Brandy's cousin was telling me is like this own separate town that like a mayor controls, but like make sure there are no laws. Like it's like a
commune or something.
It's like it was like a kind of like it's where all the strip clubs. It's like the Vice City part of like Detroit, or not Detroit, Denver.
Yeah, Denver, but it's within Denver, and it's like a weird like.
There's like a
autonomous zone.
Yes, pretty much like the Wild. But like they like a separate township or something, and then they put a mayor in charge of it, always who like makes sure that there are no laws on the books or something. So they're explaining this to me. I was like, "It sounds amazing.
Here. It's okay."
Yeah. Like... International waters. Yeah.
There's a place in I've never been there, but it's in Amsterdam. There's like some commune that has that, but it's like the size of a block. You know, it's like a city block, and if something real went down, they'd be like, "All right, I guess we're calling the cops." Like time out. Well, now we're just part of Amsterdam.
In Geneva, there was that I found it. It was like, but they have these. They have a totally different outlook on squatters' rights out there. So if you're at if some dipshit buys a giant property and they just like, I'm going to sit on this and sell it a million years later because property always makes money.
Yeah, they're just like waiting to make money on it and just want to tie it up.
If you can move into an abandoned property and for a certain amount of time without them ever doing anything, for like you can claim some sort of ownership over that property.
Yeah.
And it happened in these like giant warehouses in Geneva, and they took over like 4 square blocks, and it's just spray paint graffiti. I mean, this is also 15 years ago, so who knows what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
They spray painted like the street, the sidewalk, the walls, all beautiful like graffiti murals, like, but every inch of a street sign, like it was, I walked into it by accident. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? And then someone's like, oh, that part of town. But they like just took it over, and it's theirs now.
It worked.
Yeah, no, they got it. It was their part of town. They were like, all right, let's take their claim.
Persistence pays off.
Yeah. So you said you're doing some writing with Multicult?
Yeah, and doing solo stuff too. Been writing a shitload. It's hard to kind of keep what's the word? Like a good like objective view of what you're doing, because I'm so used to like, all right, you're gonna like write a certain amount of things, and then you know time goes by, and then you're like, all right, you're gonna go play it, print it on something, and sell it to some people. And without that cycle, like that cycle's all screwed up, and it's been like that forever and ever. So now it's just like, all right, I guess just write more. And then you're like, was that any good? I don't know if this is good. And then you start to have like more than you can even sort through, and you're like, all right. So it's uncharted waters.
Yeah. Do you think that like, well, I know with the Wayward, you'd sometimes send me like an early version of an album, and there would be songs that would be cut. You'd be like, you'd write 3 or 4 songs that didn't make it onto the end album.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're going to whittle it down to, like the best 8 songs, and then
probably even more like that now with everything. There's like, for anything you heard, there's probably like 5 things that like just got flushed away. But I always find that the more you write, then even if you flush it away, that like some piece of that thing will come back later and like finish something else that needed a foil.
I definitely think that is like the best artistic philosophy, is just fucking keep making. And you'll write it better the second time if it doesn't work the first. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. You can't you don't want to get in that headspace of like beating yourself up, because it's like, well, we all suck in lots of ways. So it's just like getting through enough of the suck to where you get to something that at least you yourself are happy with, and then maybe the people you work with are like also happy with their contribution, and then and then it kind of has then it properly has a life of its own,
Yeah. Now, so you got 3 projects right now or more? You've got Overcalc, The Wayward, and Multicult,
and
right?
Multicult, yeah. And then still recording bands. Like right before COVID, I recorded that band Rid of Me, which is Mike from Fight Amp and Low Dose. He's a new project with a couple of their former members, that band, and like other Philly bands. And then I did a couple masked sessions with a local Baltimore band called Silk Leash, and then doing some stuff with Dustin's band Elegabilis.
I'm pumped on that.
Yeah.
I think I saw him in the chat saying that we should do Sativa and then just see what happens. But I'm real excited. He did send me one of the tracks like in an unfinished state, and I was like, this is amazing, man. I mean, that dude's so talented.
He's no slouch. He's always got, full of ideas. That's free.
So now you have like 3 pretty distinct projects that for yourself. Is it like, do you write something and be like, this is more of a Overcalc thing, or this is more, how do you separate it out? Or is it the other people's kind of input that makes it different from each other?
I will more and more now. I have started just writing things and being like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this, but I'm just going to write something. But I usually, if I'm doing something for one of those projects, I like already have that headspace of like, I'm going into that, going to use it for that. But sometimes I am just screwing around, and then I'm like, okay, this will work for that. But there's plenty of stuff where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do with this yet. So
yeah,
I captured the idea. It's like, this is a cool idea, but it could go a million ways, Definitely getting in more with the using synthesizers more is like kind of like put a little wind in my sails as far as like just like being in the active habit of writing things nonstop. Sometimes I feel a little like maybe I'm spreading myself a little thin or a little scattered, but I think more is more when you're trying, and then you can be a little, when you're being harder on things later, you don't feel as bad because you made so much, that you're like, well, it's okay to like ditch a whole bunch of this because I made a whole bunch. And it's like about having that active process that like is not super fractious, because I don't know, I mean, yourself as an artist, I imagine you kind of get in the zone, and then you kind of want to just stay there and get as much done as you can while you're in that, because then you flip out of it and then you're like, dumb life crap, you're paying bills, you're like fixing a flat tire, or having to visit relatives or something. It's like you gotta, when you have the available time, you gotta use it, because it's you have less time than you think.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is like, I think you have to be in a certain creative space to do the practice, to do the repetitions, but you also have to be in this really unique headspace, I think, to create. And that's the hardest one to get to, is like, you can't force it. You just got to like keep spinning until you're there, I think. And anything fucking throw you off your game, It's just like, any whatever comes up in life. That's why having an art studio, I think, has always been a priority for me, because
space to go to. Be like, okay,
I've got all the distractions here, but like, I've got like a TV going and like music playing or whatever, but like that stuff is not something that's going to like pull me out of the headspace, which is like hard. I don't know. Yeah.
You change your attitude like while you're in that, and then when you're like, I've reached a stopping point, and you step away, and then you can properly like unwind, and then you come back to your work with like fresher eyes and fresher ears, and be like, be a little more honest with yourself. Be like, okay, make a decision, go one way or the other, and less like just kind of staring and contemplating. I kind of can slip into that a little bit, get a little catatonic, and you're like, this could go 11 different ways, and I'll just think about those 11 different things, but actually do nothing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But it's true with visual art. I'm sure you've experienced where you can go too far and you're like, damn it, now I had something and now it's all fucked up. I guess it's a little more forgiving.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with paint is that like I just have to keep at it, and not be afraid to fucking just do a whole layer of white over whatever the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
Fresh, and have the faith in your skills that like I got it again. It's gonna be better the second time, like not magic.
No.
There could be magic there, but it's not magic. It's just do it. Yeah.
And sometimes you get it only takes 1 or 2 tries. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's often not the case.
Now, you're as a producer, has that been an interesting? You've been doing that for probably a decade now. Yeah, at least.
Yeah, I used to do like mobile recording when I started doing it. It's probably like really around 2006 or 2007, I think. When I started actively going. I'd go up to Philly or I'd go down to Richmond, up to DC. I used to bring all my stuff to a band's practice space and like set up like a little space, things like that. That band, the band Ilsa.
That sounds familiar.
On Relapse.
How do you know that spelled?
A Doom.
ILLS?
ILSA.
Oh, maybe I don't then.
Yeah. Anyway, they're like a Doom band, but I did that. There was a place called, the hell? Bands used to always get their stuff stolen, actually, right near there in the Hamden area of Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I would go out into so it was a bunch of practice spaces. They would set up in their space and I'd set up all the microphones, and then I would set up like out in the hallway with like studio monitors and like laptop with like Windows XP, but it worked okay. It was pretty decent. It's like I've definitely learned a lot more since then, gotten better gear and a more kind of consistent setup. But that was fun. It was a lot more work though, like looking at stuff. It was a lot more time consuming, Do you
think that pushed you as a musician?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Kind of like think with the end product more in mind. Actually, I've always been recording like on 4 tracks and 8 tracks and stuff to write stuff, but I never like considered it to do it seriously because it was such a leap to, in equipment cost and like skill level to do something that was like, oh, this is worth printing up and selling it, or worse yet, charging other people for their stuff for them to print and sell it.
Yeah.
That was a big leap, but we had a really bad, with Wayward, we started that band and we did our first tour. I think maybe you did that one with us where we played with like Battles and Mastodon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We got on some decent shows like kind of straight away, but we just like brought like a demo 4-track recorded like CDR, for that tour. We didn't have a real release. That was that
was when Dustin was still in the band, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't do that tour then. No, I was on like
you didn't come along for any of that?
No. I did the one tour with Carrie and with Dustin that was like so brutal because of him and Nate's butting heads the whole time.
Yeah.
And I left it in, I think, Oakland. I like went all the way out to Oakland and then I hopped off and then you guys finished it. I think that's the one where Dustin got arrested at the end.
Oh, yeah. So that was like the winter one. That was a really, other than that, like, annoying event, like that was like a really good tour actually.
I had a blast. I did it like 4 more times with you.
Yeah, you spent I think at least like 3 months of your life on the road, I think, with us. Like,
we did that one tour that was pretty much like, I feel like it was 3 months.
That 10-week one. You came along for the 10-week one, right?
Yeah.
I was
on that one the whole time.
You were there for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a long tour.
I think I counted it up and like, because I remember that one too. There was like a whole week and a half that was just Ohio, and it was like all these like shitty Ohio towns and like just Ohio. It was so pumped.
Yeah,
we finally left Ohio.
I thought of like, if I never see Ohio again, it will be too soon.
Because it's like a Monday night in Athens, Ohio. Like, oh, you're like, ugh.
Yeah. That was at College Town. I think we played there a couple times.
Yeah.
What college it is there.
I think I talked you into busking at that one. It only lasted for like 2 minutes. Yeah,
I remember I slipped down. I had a Mesa Boogie guitar cabinet, and I slipped down a flight of stairs outside with that cab, and somehow like didn't maim myself. Yeah, like I was like, oh, I'm still alive, and I'm not in the hospital, and okay, somehow that worked out. I do remember getting bronchitis though. We slept out in it was like Nebraska or somewhere in the Great Plains, and it was like super windy, and it was like below 0 overnight. And I slept on the floor. I'm
pretty sure I remember this one. That was the worst. The sleeping in the van, it was fine when it was like you get the van to yourself and everybody goes inside, but like when it was 4 dudes in the van, I remember a couple times too, I got like driver's seat. Like, you know, because you're like rotating or whatever.
Yeah.
Driver's seat, which is like you got the wheel right here, and you're just like,
oh yeah, your feet are like touching the pedals. You like put your feet like under the pedals. Like, that doesn't really work.
The worst, man.
You're with like hands in your pockets. You just like smell like cheese, and you're like just like, what did I sign up? But we didn't sleep in the van that often. We usually had places to stay.
You were pretty good. You were pretty good at that last end of the show, like, or walk around the room and pull the Dustin fist out and be like, so, basically, you got a couch show.
Yeah, that usually, it wasn't too hard, you know. The hotel, we never got hotels.
No.
Never got to.
I did never.
I did get head lice once, though, because of that.
Dude, there were some nasty places.
Just that was a salvia incident. I remember we stayed with some guy. It was in like Johnson City, Tennessee. I can't remember the name of the bar, but the show sucked. It was like a Monday night in Johnson City, Tennessee. We stayed with some guy that looked like Al Jurgensen, like balding Al Jurgensen. And we get to his house, and he's got this mangy dog that's got enormous missing patches of hair. And I was like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. And you go into the house and like sit on his couch. It's like moist. And you're like, oh, well, is this better than sleeping outside? I'm not so sure. They're like, we're already here. He's like, here, man, smoke this salvia. And I smoked it and instantly regretted it. It was like the worst sensation ever. I fall asleep, like wake up the next day, and I'm just like itching my scalp, like, but Jesus. And like walking, I'm like, I just got to get out of here, and like walked into town, like just itching my head like nonstop. And then for the rest of the tour, I'm itching my head.
Yeah.
Thinking I'm so grimy, and it's just impossible to get a shower. And you know, another, week and a half, 2 weeks go by, and I get home and I'm like itching my head with a comb, like just to, for the set. I had long hair at this time.
Yeah.
Like, and I pulled the comb down. There's fucking like creepy crawlers all over it. It's like, motherfucker.
Oh man.
But I got fucking head lice. I felt so. It was a low point for me.
I mean, that was the thing with touring with you guys. I learned a lot about I think just the do it DIY kind of ethos, but also I taught myself I can fall asleep anywhere if I really want to. I remember by the end of one of our tours, it was in New York, and I was running the merch table right by the speakers, and I still fell asleep while some fucking loud ass band. I think it was Time of War Kids or somebody's just blasting in my ear right here, and I still was just like that. And then how good a fucking shower can be.
Oh my God.
After, weeks of just dirt, grime, grossness, and you just get to one place with a nice shower with powerful water, and you're just oh, this is fucking heaven.
Can get food.
I remember in South Dakota at one of those shows, like we fucking ran a train on that shower, and it was so gross. By the time we left that person's house, I was just like, I think it was like last one in. I was like, oh man, this is wrecked. Just like water everywhere. The soap's got dirt all over it.
Oh
like,
my God. This reminds me of. I'm a little scared to bring it up, but like. We stayed. I don't know if you were.
I know the story you're about to talk about.
We stayed in. I think it was. We played a show in Minneapolis, and this band like put us up, and Jesse like was like wasted, and fell asleep in the like turned on the shower like fully dressed, and then like woke up hours later, and he woke me up, and like it's like not even. It's like the tiniest little bit of light. Like peering through the window, sun's not over the horizon, and Jesse's like, "We got to get the fuck out of here." I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, I fell asleep in the shower on the water, and like touched the carpet. It was like squishy,
yeah,
it was like soft, wet. And I think it was like an apartment too. Where it's like,
it was, yeah. It was like, remember we had to drive for forever to get. You guys played at Grumpy's, and then like we were drinking. We had just this. It was St. Paul, and I had just started drinking, and I just sat at some bar in River City, South Dakota, where the dude's like, "Hey, you ever had a Long Island iced tea?" And I was like, "Why, no, I haven't, sir." You know, we started drinking Long Island iced teas for like at least a couple days, which is never a good idea. So we're all kind of trashed at that show, and I just remember it was like drive forever to get out to this dude's house. And then we get in there, and then Jesse's like soaking wet, and we're like 5:30 in the snow, like out of this apartment because he fell asleep in the bathtub.
It was a meager existence. I think I remember one time we were somewhere up north, and it was hella cold. We just like parked the van in some residential neighborhood, and then woke up to like a cop like tapping flat window.
That sucked. I remember that.
It just looks suspicious when you have a van full of people sleeping in front of someone's house.
Yeah. I remember being so jarred and so confused.
It's so like, loud if you park at a fucking Walmart or something. I mean, come on. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and you got the floodlights coming in the windows. You put your shirt over your head, but it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no longer. You've rose the ranks where now you stay in hotels.
Yeah. For better. I don't know how long it is, but, you know, it definitely, I mean, I think, like Rebecca's made a point before of like, oh, if you're not rested well, play crappy, which is, you know, probably true, especially like the older you get. Okay, you know, not invincible. And it is nice to also to like, not like negotiate for like use of a bathroom and like, you know,
oh yeah,
big sleeping situations consistent. You know, it's like there's like pillow, bed. You know,
yeah, it's a bare minimum thing. Like, we were in our 20s at that point, like early 20s.
Yeah.
Like then you can kind of do that bullshit, but. I mean, that is why you see some dudes that have just never moved on from that period of their life, and they don't look good.
Yeah, that's not sustainable.
No. Yeah. It's good to take lessons like that from people, too, where you're like, okay, that didn't work out for you.
Yeah. That's what wisdom is, right? You learn from somebody else's mistakes.
Exactly. And I was shocked now that I do the conventions I'm traveling again. You could still find out in like Indiana, really? Ohio, like $40 hotels still exist. Yeah.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I'm shocked. I'm like, they're trying. Some like the shadier ones are trying, and like,
and just sort of like, you know, wear a mask and whatever. I mean, they're usually like very large spaces, which is good. You know, it's like. You go to like a grocery store or whatever, it's like a big space, and you know, if you follow protocol and it's not too crowded, then.
But these convention centers don't really have any sort of filtering, you know, like any like, you know, like the
all the air
is trapped in those big rooms, you know. It's not like you got it they're not even air conditioned a lot of times.
Okay. So it's not like a nice moving.
It's like the worst. It's the last thing I would do.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Oh my God, the idea of like playing a show in front of people. I know I think I saw something like Dinosaur Jr. did a socially distant show.
So weird.
And there's like 12 people like at a fucking Dinosaur Jr. show. It's like, what the fuck is the point of this? It feels a little silly, you know, if like you can't like, because the whole, I don't know, that specifically any rock music related anything is like a gathering of people. So it feels a little off if you try and half-ass it. It's like, well, why don't you just wait, you know?
Yeah.
Which sucks, being on either side of it, but I mean,
especially rock music, I feel like doesn't even work in a kind of like, there's so much, I mean, what is rock music besides really pared down to get that energy to like have this interaction with an audience, you know, to like have this movement between you that like, even when you try to do it, like I've seen some live streams and stuff like that. I don't know. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Really
that whole, like you see 4 squares and they're all like in a different place. I'm like,
yeah.
You know, why don't you guys just like start your own like synth project or something? You know, it's like the rock thing. It doesn't look cool like a Zoom call. It looks incredibly stupid. I hate to inform you.
Yeah.
I mean, you see like there's a Metallica one that's like floating around.
Oh God.
Yeah, it sounds, you know, Metallica have, you know, made, you know, enough good things that, you know, it kind of doesn't matter what they do, but like it was god awful. Metallica concert,
I just did in the fall James Hetfield painting, and I was just like, okay, I got to get in the groove for this. And you know, Metallica was like one of the first bands, I think, like definitely the first metal band that got me in, like And Justice for All, that era.
Yeah, that was my first Metallica tape, I think.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, like that totally like
goodie, even though
put me in the rotation to start watching Headbangers Ball and stuff and learn about Black Flag and like that kind of stuff. So it always kind of like, that's why I won't ever watch that fucking movie, Some Kind of Monster or whatever.
Oh, you ever seen that?
I don't want to judge them. I don't want to hate them.
No, you won't hate them. It's just funny. It's a more complete picture, you know, over a long span of time.
Man, I just want to pretend they all died with like.
No, don't fuck with. You gotta watch that movie. You gotta watch. It humanizes them. You know.
I don't want them to be any more human than like the records I listen to. That's human enough, man.
Yeah.
What was that? They like last year they tried to cover like Prince or somebody, and Kirk Hammett just like butchered that. It was like you guys have been doing this for your whole lives, and that's what you can do. Do you just make this up on the spot? You've never listened to the song.
You gotta see the Lou Reed shit.
That's the one I'm talking about. That's what it was. I knew it was somebody who like passed away or something, and they just like
that one.
I feel like
that's like worse than like watching your grandmother in a porn. Like that is like you will cause dental injuries like watching this thing.
Do you think that they planned that, or they were just like, we could do it? Like, I don't even have to learn the song.
I don't know how nobody in the mix was like, guys, you know, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
You can't do this. You just don't. You should destroy this and make sure nobody ever sees it. But lots of people saw it, and nobody cares. So who's in the right?
I mean, they probably, you know, got paid more for that than, you know, just on their
Somebody
YouTube
owns a nice house because of that whole project.
Oh, yeah.
I always feel like that show that Dustin's always on about, the Metalocalypse.
Yeah.
Like that's very like, Metallica based, I feel like.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm working on another I'm working on some koozies right now, and one side has Shaq on it and the other side has Danzig, who's another
it's a nice melange.
You know, person I like love to hate, or like I don't know. It's like he's such a dick. He's just like
he's a sort of a punching bag a little bit. I like the Misfits though.
Literally. Yeah.
And
I mean, I
Danzig,
love
I like some Danzig too. But
Danzig up till Danzig 3. Oh, I
yeah.
like How to God Skill, and I was way into that stuff. But he is kind of like such a asshole. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
he's like harassing
a matter of
people.
time before he gets Me Too'd or something. You know,
He got in a fight with Chris X, not in a fist fight, but he came into. I don't know if you heard about this, but he came into the old Reptilian Records in Baltimore. And like not long before he got that Haymaker video, him getting decked or whatever. But he came, I guess Chris X had some like bootleg Misfits 7-inches for sale. And, you know, Chris didn't make them. He just bought them from somebody. He's like, you have some Misfits records, cool. And then Danzig like was like looking at him and he's like, this is a bootleg. It's like, you can't fucking sell this. Like, take this off your shelf. And Chris was like, no, like, I paid money. Like, I understand it's a bootleg, but, like, I didn't make it, but I bought it, so I'm going to sell it. And Danzig was like, fuck you. Like, you come back here. I'm going to, like, you and me, we're going to fight here. Like, tonight. And, like, at some time. And, like, Chris was like, okay, I guess. And, like, called, like, a whole bunch of friends, and everybody's like, holy shit, like,
I'll go down.
Danzig. But Danzig never showed up. Like all these people like came out to like witness this, and then a few years later, he's like harassing that guy and like pushes him, and then it's like decked on video. Wow. And it's like immortalized, you know, for all time.
Well, he's a tiny dude too, so I mean,
yeah, he's a dwarfish man.
Probably got a lot of that like anger, you know. That us short people have.
Apparently, he has peck implants.
Huh?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, it's like weird, like high breast implants or something. I don't know how that works.
Well, there's this festival I used to go to in Austin called Fun Fest. That was,
yeah, I know that.
Amazing. But like the year before I started going, they had Danzig play. But he like showed up. It's kind of like this amazing story of like show up. He's headlining one night. They like keep it all in check. Like you're on set time. There's no fuck arounds because they have a hard off at 11 p.m. because City of Austin doesn't allow music outdoors after 11. So they're like, we can't go late. So he like shows up, says I'm not playing. I've got a cold. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. Yeah. Then he like takes his time getting on the stage, goes on at like 10:45.
Well, you know Danzig is a prima donna. I mean, how could you know? He's like,
but he started like saying, like, they're shutting me off. Everybody break the stage, like riot in here. Like he's trying to incite like an insurrection. He's like failed at what Donald Trump did later, but he's like he's trying to break, and like all the kids there are just like, huh?
They just ignored him. They're like, what are you saying?
Yeah, and then all the lights went out, and they're like, okay, I guess we gotta go.
So it failed. He was just like, let's tear this place down. It's just like, no. Okay, never mind. Yeah, like, I mean, don't do that. Good night. Like PA's like shut off.
I mean, 10 minutes. You probably got Twist of Cain, and you got maybe the songs you wanted to hear.
Yeah. That reminds me of I don't know if you remember, you went to that Jesus Lizard reunion show in 2009, the Baltimore one.
Oh, which one? The Baltimore one?
Yeah, it was one in Baltimore at Sonar.
Okay.
It was like 2009. Like I remember Dave like arguing with the lights guy, and he's like, turn on all the lights, and the guy turns on the lights, like, shows over lights.
Yeah.
And he's like, not the house lights, you dick. He's like, everybody clap like a fucking Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen.
David Young's the greatest frontman that's ever existed.
He's got a good character. I saw him do a Flipper. Like
I saw that too.
That was pretty cool. It was better than I thought it was good. Like the idea was good, and then I heard some of it, and I was like, it's not as good as I thought it would be. But then I saw it in person, and I was like, okay, that was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Well, I got to see him twice. That I did the Flipper in like October, and then Jesus Lizard for New Year's Eve last year. So it was like better out to you. But the Flipper show, he was fucking trash. It was a total train wreck of a show. They like pulled out all these old punk rock bands. This band called Reagan Youth.
Oh, wow.
With only one original member and a bunch of kids that he got to fill in, and he berated on stage, and like so much that the sound guy got on the mic and was like, "Stop yelling at that kid!" Like he stopped the song in the middle of the song to
He's
just
like, "I'm
be
gonna call Child Protective Services."
Yeah, pretty much, man. It was brutal.
Like, this kid has fucking school in the morning.
But there were like 4 or 5 of these old dinosaur punk bands playing, so I guess David Yow was just pounding hard in the back. Came out way too trashed. Got dropped on his head on like
the crowd thing.
Oh yeah, and he had like a bad concussion where he couldn't, because like I've seen him trash and like nail it in a lot of songs, and he was doing that until he got dropped on his head, and he like it was basically an instrumental flipper from there with him kind of like laying on the ground, kind of mumbling. Then he finally starts puking and leaves, and they're just like, "Anybody want to sing this song?" And this like lady comes up there who's like 6'2", and she's just been screaming "Hail Satan" a whole night, and she just gets the mic, strips naked, is wearing a diaper, and starts screaming over sex bombs. She just starts screaming "Hail Satan." And then Yow comes back out and starts sucking on her boobs. It was like the weirdest show I've ever seen. And I have no idea if that was like on par with the rest of the Flipper tour, but it was wild and not very good, but kind of memorable and awesome.
Oy vey. Man, yeah, Flipper, because Flipper already sounds like a band that's like getting attacked by dogs or something like while they're playing, you know?
Yeah.
To begin with, so
they kind of find that groove, and then they just go off. That the guitarist is really good, and they get in there, and then
interesting. But it's like it's not music in the same way that a lot of people understand what music is. You know,
I definitely gravitated to Minutemen from that like era. That still kind of holds up to me, but not a lot of the rest of them.
Like deep into them, but I appreciated their skill. You know, I felt it's like a skill. But I love Flipper. Flipper's great, but there's some people that are they are so repellent. It's so repellent for them. You know, they just hear that nobody's on time. Like everything's fucking. Like it's the poppiest music like ever created. Other than maybe like Butthole Surfers.
Yeah.
Which is like sounds like somebody's like pouring a beer into the mixer. But,
I know people love Butthole Surfers, but I still haven't been able to like really come to grips with what it is that makes them great.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I haven't deep dived enough, but
yeah.
I don't know. I still remember
Rembrandt.
I remember that one show that you guys played with the guy from Butthole Surfers.
Yeah, yeah. What the fuck was his band called? I can't remember. It was some dumb name, like.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was called like Ike or something like that. But it was like it kind of sucked. But that was a show that Wayne Dennison and Paul Barker from Minnesota out to.
I remember because I was like, I looked at them and I was like, look at those weirdos. And you're like, that's Dwayne Dennison. I was like, literally looking at that guy in a trench coat, like, what a dork. Is he like a high school janitor? And like, that's the guy from Ministry.
I was so bummed though, because they came like right after we got done playing. I was like, fuck. But like talked to them a bit because they were doing. I think it was when they were doing that band USSA.
Oh yeah.
But then talking to Dwayne, I found out that like Robert Fripp like Nashville.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was like, oh yeah, and was like doing impressions of Robert Fripp driving by their practice space and being like, oh, like sort of mocking them or something like that. But yeah, the guy fucking lives in, or at least back in Nashville.
Yeah.
Weird. But I guess look at like England, like postage stamp, cold, rainy, like America the beautiful. Okay. Vision.
Yeah, I'm gonna go live with a bunch of rednecks. Move to Nashville.
No, their British pounds go a long way.
That's true. You know, it's like the expats go to Mexico and just live like kings.
Yeah. There you go. It's all about that arbitrage.
So I've been noticing you, like, I mean, you've come a long way as a drummer. Are you still just messing around with that? Do you have plans to, like, drum for bands, or you seem to enjoy it?
I would. I don't know how much time I could devote to, like, doing a band for real, like, as the drummer, like, all the time. But I love to record and write music drums. Like, back when I started Multicult, I did a lot of writing on drums and then bass and then guitar before, like, becoming a band. But, like, just in general, I love writing from drums and then going from there. But a lot of it is just a placeholder for, like, ideas. But I have more and more, especially doing, like, little, like, Instagram video shorts and things like that, where it's like, oh, you know, kind of low-hanging fruit. I don't have to, like, necessarily, some of that stuff ends up at being a song on something else later. But it's like, if it doesn't, that's okay. You know, this is still something to enjoy, you know, to have, you know, a minute's worth of bass token, you know, to, you know, something pleasant to experience, you know, from the side.
So what you're saying is you, like, show Nate and Jake how to play the drums.
No. Yeah, definitely not.
You guys play catch up to this.
It's just, for me, it's like kind of hard because I don't know how many times I've, like, wrote, like, a guitar part, and then as soon as, like, it goes against another drum part, it's like, oh, this isn't at all what I was going for. And I think it's something where I just don't, the way I understand the part is rhythmically based, and if I hear a different rhythm, then like the idea falls apart. So I start to, like, let drums be before I write guitar. Like, I very rarely write anything from guitar. Like, I can write, like, a synth line or a drum line and go from there, but the guitar usually comes last.
Is that because you, like, it's more like, I mean, I feel like the guitar is a very, like, emotion driven instrument when it's at its best, you know?
Yeah.
You're, like, feeling it instead of writing it.
Yeah. Definitely much more now. I mean, writing anything that I really is, I don't really, if I had to, like, explain to somebody or write it down, it would take a little time, you know. It's all very intuitive and memory based. But it always comes back to, like, what does it feel like? Does it feel right, or does it feel off, you know? And it's like, kind of pare away the stuff that doesn't, or feels forced, you know?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, so, you know, painting is kind of plus and minuses as a solo act, you know. I don't really have to go check with anyone. But in fact, with Two Things, it is very collaborative because all the ideas start with somebody else bringing me their initial ideas, and then I play off what they do. So there is that kind of thing, but it's a different person every time. And the writing with music with other people, is that, like, I always thought in some ways that pushes, when you're with good musicians, it definitely pushes you farther outside your comfort zone. Do you find that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, playing with anybody, especially anybody new, will push you out of your comfort zone, period. I think, you know, some people you click with more easily. I've been lucky to have, you know, a good number of people over years that have been like, oh man, I feel very lucky to have worked with this person. And but you always, like, however easy it is at first, you make a bunch of stuff, and then you hit a spot where you're like, okay, kind of already did that before, so, like, that's when it gets hard, you know. Whereas if you somebody it's already kind of difficult, you might, you know, it just happens in the opposite order where it's more of a struggle to start, but then once you get going, it's like, oh, this is all a bunch of cool uncharted territory. Yeah.
Now, you've been in, I've, you know, so starting Trisomy 13, Uh, you had quite a lot of projects. You don't seem like someone who ever really goes backwards very much. Like even your bands, it's usually when I go see the show, it's a lot of the newer material. Do you look backwards? Do you like listen to Mormon Warlord record and be like, oh shit, look at this weird thing I made a long time ago? Now.
Well, the other day, and I was like, this gets destroyed in cataclysmic.
I mean, I have never heard much else like Mormon Warlord. It is very unique. So like old Carrion records or anything like that.
Over the years, like, I've been in this situation like, hey, somebody like found a thing and like put it on, or I might like with the Mormon Warlord thing, I found it on a hard drive and I like listened to it and I was like, ooh. So yeah, once in a while, but like, it's really kind of wasteful to like linger in that for too long. And usually if it's far back enough, I'm like, oh, there's like a million things like that irritate me about this, So yeah, I do. And it's like on a smooth curve. Like the more recent it gets, the less like annoyed I am. Like if I hear, okay, that's pretty cool, over like the last like decade or so, I'm like, I'm pretty happy with all that kind of stuff, but I'm always a lot more excited about the new stuff because I always feel like, oh, I start to realize how little I still know, and like how little I knew before. And it's very important, I think, not even making art, but just in life, not paint yourself in a corner and think that you've seen thing, because there's no fucking way. You could spend every waking minute and not find everything that's out there and learn everything there is to know. So you got to keep your mind open, and that means getting out of your comfort zone.
Definitely.
I regret getting out of the comfort zone.
I think it's funny because like I do a stupid band every once in a while. I have a great time with it. And it's very much a hobbyist kind of mentality to that sort of stuff where like I like making it good. Like I don't want to go out there and just do something that I'm not into, but I want to but I also am like just doing it for fun. So if it ever became work, then I would immediately bail on it. But I can go back
where you feel like, I mean, it is work. It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm same with art when you're booking, like, traveling, going to conventions and stuff. I mean, a lot of that stuff, you're like, ugh. It's grueling, but it gets less grueling. You start getting to know the people that you work with. You work with them on a regular basis, and it's like you have a bit of a friendship there, and it's nice to be like, oh, we may not talk, every week or every month, but there's an understanding of like, okay, we're into the same thing, and like we'll be there to support each other when when it's needed, because this is the stuff that keeps people sane. I mean, without, I don't really know. I felt very lost as as a child and a teenager, and like DIY punk like existence like made life a lot more bearable.
I agree 100%. Like I read the stories of some of these dudes, like some of the dudes that are getting arrested for insurrection or whatever, and I see like probably back in fucking high school and college, I was so into like just I don't know that I was angry, but I just like was into all that like really aggressively anti-PC kind of stuff. And like I see that as a road I probably could have gone down if I didn't find community that kind of like brought me in. The fun people.
Falsehood of like that impression, like a lot of that just comes from I don't know, like the teenage mind, especially a teenage male mind, is a bit of a tragic.
Well, also, but we both grew up in the same, like, but we also grew up in that same place, which I think was just like, if you're a fucking square peg trying to go in a round hole in Northern Virginia, it's like you're not going to find a lot of like support or like It's just a shitty place.
And it like DC and Baltimore to be like, oh, okay, like, not everybody's like, not everything is like a weird mall and with annoying music playing and cops like ready to like, pull you over for, the smell of weed smoke 50 yards away, and that it was just so liberating to find, just underground art period.
Yeah.
That, things that weren't acceptable to show on TV or just like not really acceptable in polite society as like a group communal sort of like form of like commingling and like sharing, like, I'm getting all sappy here.
No, I mean 100%. It was just like growing up there, especially socializing at like my early years there was just like, you go to some place and everybody's in this whole other world where they're trying to like make it in business or in the government. Yeah. And they're like sizing you up to what you can do for them. And like the minute you're starting to talk about music or art or whatever, that's not the amount of money you make. It was just like, you get this like look of like, okay, moving on to the next person. Like that, man.
Yeah.
Getting out of there was like so good, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of friends that still live there too, but it's a tough place. You don't, if you're from there, you haven't traveled much, you don't realize that like, oh, it's not like that everywhere. Like it's not like that in most places. You realize like that weird pallor. It's almost like authoritarian,
Yeah.
Because of like homeowners associations and like, uppity cops and just like everything's just so fee laden and suburban, and it's like uber consumerist, that area in particular.
And there's also this like weird, really shitty kind of redneck outskirts that like I went to Manassas Park for a couple of years and just dangerous, trashy people, and you're just like, oh, wow, this is like the opposite end where I wish I'm not fitting in with them either. Yeah. They're like, still talking about football, still talking about trucks. Like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, like meth smoke and, more like rusted out cars, but similarly unwelcoming vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
Manassas.
Horrible place. Woodbridge at least had like a rap video about it that was pretty good. That's what I remember.
What was that?
It was like a ripoff of a Beastie Boys song where they're just like, "Hello, Woodbridge," and it was all shots of them in like the Potomac Mills parking lot.
Who was it?
Some rap group. I just remember it.
No, I'm totally clueless. This isn't like the Whoop There It Is, because that was like co-opted from some local DC thing. Anyway, I digress. I'm sure.
I'll find it. I'll send it over to you.
Okay. Yeah.
The internet never forgets. It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
Snowden.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Well, it's been good talking to you. I always remember to like one time I did this too long and my phone shut off and I lost the whole thing. So I try not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's been cool seeing your stuff. You got anything up and coming? Any records you produce that are coming out pretty soon, or does Wayward have something coming out? Or
I got Wayward stuff. So we've been doing a 2-piece thing where we create like synth bass and stuff, but we do it all live. And it's just me and Nate with like stereo guitar. So we redid some old stuff, and then we've recorded a good amount of new stuff, and then we have more new stuff
cool.
Works. So lots of new Multicult demos. I have a new Overcalc LP in the can, so hopefully that'll come out in like May or June.
Perfect.
Pushing it too hard because not gonna be playing shows on it right away. So
might as well take your time.
Yeah. So handful of things coming.
Cool. Yeah, everybody that's made it this far into the video, go check out all these projects. They're super rad.
Excellent.
All right, dude. Well, it's good catching up. I'm sure we'll do it again some. You know, you're always welcome up here in Providence. Brandy just got the COVID vaccine. She's going in for a second shot this weekend.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Congratulations.
We'll be safe enough soon.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah.